Hello, my name is Rick Torbett and welcome to Better Basketball. The Read and React offense took over a year to produce, and I'm pretty confident that I covered every detail of every layer of the offense. But regardless, I continue to hear the following question: what is the best method for teaching the Read and React? And regardless of that answer, the follow-up question is always, how long will it take? So, when Mike Bonner, coach of the Emmanuel College Lady Lions, asked me the same question, I boldly answered, 1 week. In 1 week, I can put in the entire Read and React, all 20 layers. And he took me up on it. Now, some of you are saying, there's no way an entire team can master the Read and React in 5 practices, 11 hours. And I agree. What can you master in 11 hours? I wasn't shooting for mastery. I was shooting for the team to acquire the ability to run the entire offense in this short, condensed amount of time. And they did. And so can your team. But I don't want to leave it at that. There's more here than a simple cram course. To better understand what I did in these 5 practices and why it was done in this way, we need to look at the 3 basic stages of skill acquisition. Stage 1 is the cognitive or early stage. In this stage, you're simply trying to understand what you're going to be doing. You're thinking about the process and maybe breaking the skill into manageable parts. For a coach, this is an easy stage to identify. It's what you do when you watch and study the Read and React offense video. Stage 2 is the associative or intermediate stage. In this stage, you begin practicing the skill and adjusting that practice based on feedback. The question in this stage is not mastery. It's questions like, what are the most effective ways of repetition? Are the players acquiring the skills based on our drills? Are they beginning to connect the dots? Stage 3 is the autonomous or late stage. Of course, this is what everyone is shooting for. You'll know you've entered this stage when your players are performing the skill effectively and efficiently without thinking about it or paying unnecessary attention to the process. Now, before we apply this to the Read and React, we need to be clear about who we're talking about, coaches or players. A coach cannot skip a stage. You can't plan a Read and React practice, which is stage 2, without completing stage 1. You have to go through the cognitive stage first to know what you're doing. You have to understand the process and all of its parts before you can plan how to practice what's needed. So, from here on, I'm talking about players. The only way to get to stage 3, where they're running the offense effectively and efficiently without thinking about it, is through high amounts of repetition. That's not in question. It's the first 2 stages that I want to talk about. One way to get through the first 2 stages is to jump straight to stage 2 with the players. The Read and React is probably the only thing you can do like this. But since the drills are the offense, you can begin practicing the reaction drills and let stage 1, understanding the big picture, come later or at least at its own pace. This works really well if you have a lot of practice time before your team practices begin. I know of a lot of successful Read and React coaches who structure their off-season workouts around stage 2, just getting in the reps and reactions needed for the offense, knowing that the cognitive stage will quickly follow as they begin their team practices. The other pathway to stage 3 is what I do in these first 11 hours of practice. I mesh stage 1 and stage 2 together at the same time. The secret to this is to do nothing else during this time. Focus 100% of the player's attention to this skill. Immerse them fully into the Read and React for 5 straight practices. Now, you're not going to achieve mastery. That's stage 3. But your team will acquire everything that's needed to rep the offense into stage 3. Now, before you freak out, we haven't spent any time on defense, player development, etc., let me explain how time frames have been collapsed. After the offense has been acquired, you will have a framework to teach and train everything else. You can then turn 100% of your attention to defense. Teaching your defense is easy. Just work on defending each layer of the Read and React, and your team will learn how to defend a give and go, dribble penetration, ball screens, screens away from the ball, post play, just to name a few. But with this plan, while you're working on defense, Your offense is getting the needed reps to move the offense into stage 3, the automatic, autonomous stage. This is how you collapse time frames. Now, what about player development? After this initial cram course, everything you do in player development has context to it. Do you need to work on shooting? Use the natural pitch drill from layer 4. You need to work on passing to the post? Then use the drills from layer 2 and layer 13. Use the pin and skip drills from layer 7 and follow the skip pass with feeding the post. Not only will you be working on the skill itself, you'll also be teaching the players exactly where to use this skill in the offense. You're teaching application as well as the skill itself. And if you're using read and react drills, then these reps that were meant for player development are moving your offense towards stage 3. I know that this is untraditional. I know that it might create some anxiety. And if you know me, and some of you do, you know that it drives me crazy to see something done incorrectly. I want to stop and teach for mastery right there, but I can't with this method. So I made a later list, and this really helped me. Every time I saw something like a poor closeout or a badly thrown pass or anything that caused me anxiety, I put it on my later list. This says to me, I'm not ignoring it. I'm going to get to this later. I'm going to teach this later. We're going to drill that to perfection later. And later doesn't mean months from now. It means after the 5 days of this Read and React boot camp. This later list not only reduced my anxiety and frustration, but more importantly, it kept me from stopping the action every 10 seconds. This is a cram course, not a mastery course. We acquire the offense and then move towards mastery. In conclusion, I want to mention a few housekeeping points. Knowing that this was videoed and knowing that you would be watching meant I stopped and explained a little more than I might have otherwise. You probably won't have to do that, and it might speed things up for you a little bit. The spots on the floor change colors after the first day. Don't worry about their colors, it's their positions that count. You're about to see 11 straight hours of Read and React in 5 practices. That's an average practice time of about 2 hours, 15 minutes. There is very little editing, only chapter titles to help you with my organization and process. Now, let's get started. My goal in this first practice is to be able to shuffle the deck with the first 4 layers.